going to do a subquery export, and everything we'll be doing today for this engagement score tracking will be through typically subqueries. And we'll just do campus visit count with a distance bonus. And this is more so to demonstrate some, again, those feature engineering pieces that we can add to our engagement scoring. And we'll do a formula export here. And we'll do a couple of more subquery exports. Because events and schedulers, and forms even for that matter, are scoped to a data table, whether that be the person or the application. In this case, you will have to do multiple joins and join to the form responses through the person, as well as through applications to count all of their events, assuming you have application scoped events and not just person scoped events, or however you're going to be counting these events. You could have them coded as interactions or some other kind of data coming in from a third-party system. But for this one, we're just going to do a count of person scoped events. And so you get this number, we're going to do an aggregate output. And that aggregate output gives us a few different options. We're just going to count the number of event registrations, essentially, tied to a certain type of form. And we're going to join to form responses. Like I was saying earlier, we do have both person scoped form responses and application scoped form responses. So you can't just join to one of these and count all form responses that the person might have, or I shouldn't say the person, the prospective student might have attended, registered for. You would have to count, run these counts for both. So we'll just do person responses. And you'll notice the little wizard hat just means this is a complicated join because there are, you can do specific forms and events or templates. I can't imagine a time where I would ever really do this. I think it's always more flexible to build in all forms and events. I guess maybe it might be a little bit quicker to do this, but I generally wouldn't recommend it. You lose a lot of flexibility and reusability with what you're doing. So we're going to join to all form responses. And then I'm going to join to from the form responses to the form to get information about the types of forms that they are, the responses are tied to. And form responses is just generic because Slate uses these form tables and form response tables for forms, events, and scheduler. And we're going to restrict these counts down to specifically, and we'll just start doing that now. If we do type from that form data table, we can choose event. We can also choose scheduler. You probably want to score these differently. So we'll just choose just events. And if we do reg status, and this is from that form response table, just mark attended. You can do more nuanced points for registers, maybe negative points for no-shows, things like that. And then we're also going to do, because we want campus visits, and you might be able to get through this through templates or folder structure, but we're just going to use that online field and just say no. It might even be better to do like a not in yes if you're looking at that older data, but that would be pretty old data at this point. And maybe we do want to do a template, and this is a clean slate. I'm assuming they have templates. Yeah, let's do on-campus interviews just for the sake of having a template option here. I'm trying to think if we have time to do, yeah, we'll probably do a streamlined version of the as of optionality. So we're going to do just a date. Let's go to app submitted. We'll do the form start and date time. And we're going to compare this, and we say we just want to count these event attendances when the form start date is before the application was submitted. And if your population is going to be include students who didn't apply, or if you're doing this for a time of admission and some of your population doesn't have an admission, basically that decision on their record to have a comparison for, you're going to want to do a coalesce. And I did more detail on this in the becoming a card shark at the data table. So we'll just do a quick coalesce, just maybe we just do I don't know what the term is going to be called in the clean slate, but so we'll do a coalesce, and we'll do app submitted date, and then maybe we want to do I'm not even going to do decisions. We don't have time for that right now. This is a quick training. It's helpful to just kind of pre-build all of this. You can inactivate those other data points when you're building. Typically, I would recommend building fields in Slate that are like your total engagement score at time of admission, at time of application, at time of deposit. It gives you those better snapshots, especially if you're adding this kind of stuff into predictive modeling. And being able to then also say what was their likelihood to enroll at time of application, at time of admit, and you have those snapshot data points just kind of built into your fields. So we'll do that, and then we'll just do formula. Well, I guess we can just concatenate since we're doing something pretty similar. I mean, simple here. And because we're going to want to have data that you don't want to have to update this every year with a new 2025, 2026, we can just concatenate this, and we'll do, there's got to be some kind of like entry term. You can replace this with whatever field you have. And then I think we can probably just do an export separator of a dash. And then we'll just go 12. Yeah, 12. I think we used just December 1st. And a concatenate is just going to smush together these two data variables, and we'll change this format type to date, null value. Okay, hopefully you have a person entry term here. You do need to do some data cleanup at some point. Maybe we just do, if there is no, well, then we're going to have this. Yeah, this is fine. You got to have an app. If you're working on your data, there should be an entry term on whoever you're pulling. So we'll just say term 12, 01. So concatenate's just going to take that entry term and coalesce that into like a 12.1 to just give you like a generic deadline. Could be January 6th, could be January 1st, could be whatever your deadline is for applying, or deadline for, or whenever your admission committee is, if you're doing a time of committing, just to give you a better snapshot of what is the best comparison point for your non-applying students or your non-admitted students to still have that snapshot data. So we're just going to say that we want events they attended before they applied, essentially. So now we have a count of events that are on campus in a specific template that they did attend and happened before that they submitted their application, or before or equal to that app submitted. And then let me just put this as of app. And then we'll make a copy of that without that particular filter. And this we'll just run this into several different fields in our source format. But we're also going to add an additional augmentation of the score based off of how far from campus they're coming. And when we get into things like campus visits, we also have some nuance that we also need to look at a bonus. So like, oh, okay, they didn't attend campus, but they were engaged with us. So maybe they didn't come to campus because they were too far, it was too expensive. They had other limitations of being able to come to campus. So being able to give students points, even though they didn't visit campus, but obviously they are very engaged. The campus visit just was not a realistic option for them. They didn't have time, resources, or physical ability to come to campus. So while we are augmenting and giving students a bonus if they're further away from campus and making those campus visits, there is the other side of the coin of not unduly granting points to just people who just had the money to come or had the time to come. So there's two sides of this coin. We're just showing one side of that coin right now. So we're going to give another subquery filter. We're just going to do distance bands from campus. And again, I would probably recommend, if you want a longer version of distance, I have a really good school, then perm, then literal value distance to campus in that card shock video. So I probably won't go into too great of a detail, maybe just, yeah, I'll just do a rank one. I'll just do proximity, geographic proximity. We'll just do the student address right now. Just do like an active address, basically. We can do permanent, do mailing, could do school, could coalesce these different options, but just for the sake of time, actually we're going to do a formula. Let's do a formula. Yeah, I think that'll be the easiest of the bands. And maybe we just, I think I had the same issue last time, as I didn't actually choose a longitude and latitude to compare, but that should be something. So we're just going to say how many miles is the student from. I mean, you would just use your institution's longitude and latitude here. And let's just say case when. And you could always rename this export to be a little more sensical or just a little bit easier to, at a glance, look at this formula. So when this is greater than, and if there's no formula here, we're just going to say 3,000 miles and just kind of throw them in with internationals. So if this is greater than maybe 500 miles, then and what we're essentially getting at here is the further away a student is from campus might be a greater indicator of how engaged they are by actually attending this campus event. So if they're greater than 500 miles away, then we're just going to say that's 5 points. When they are greater than 200 miles, it's 3 points. When that's just greater than 0, then 1 point. And so we're getting this point. So someone who is further away gets 5 points. And what it would probably help if I ended my case statement. So we have the number of events that the student has attended here in this count, and we have how far away the student is. So what we're going to do is actually multiply the number of events they went to with essentially the score band of distance. So if they came to 2 events, but they were closer, they might get roughly the same amount of points in their engagement score as someone who attended 1 event but was really far away. And we can do a lot more nuance with this count. Maybe you don't want to count the fact that they did 2 events on the same day. So there is a ton of nuance we can add here with whether it's event counts or distancing or just understanding levels of engagement and supplement points that they're not getting because they just couldn't come to campus. So we're just going to say case when, and then if you had person scoped and application scoped, you'd want to add them together here. And we just do like count of person plus count of application scoped events. But if this is greater than, so if the number of events multiplied by the distance band, so 5, 3, or 1 point, and if that is, I typically like to limit the number of points If you have an engagement score limiting to like the overall total to like 100 points, or some like anchorable cap, and then limiting the number of points a certain behavior can also give you is I find helpful. And we're just going to say if that's greater than 10 points, let's say, then we're just going to give the student 10 points. Else, so if that's not greater than or equal to 10 points, and we're just going to take that count, multiply it again by that. And you could also nest this actual formula here, number of events times that, into one of these subqueries. That way you're not actually running this multiplication twice in the query, you're just running it once, and then you're taking that value to do these comparisons and calculations. That might help with the compute a little bit if you're running a bunch of these on a large number of people. So then we have this value as of the application time, how many points they're getting for those on-campus events, those on-campus visits, and it's adjusted by how far away they are from campus. So maybe though we want to just get their total as well. So we're removing that date comparison. And we're getting a total. And since we're only going to do like one event, maybe we also want to do some kind of engagement subscore events. And you could be calculating a bunch of these event type behaviors together, or running this into multiple queries or multiple roles, however you're calculating this. So we're just going to say this is 10 points for the sake of this example. So we do have a little bit of time. Maybe we just look at, we could do emails, do material submissions. Material submissions, it's another one. You might have application scope materials. You might have person scope materials. You might have the students. There's so many different places that a student can have a material attached to. So just make sure that if you are looking at material submissions, then you are capturing every possible option for them to being able to submit them. And not just counting just person scope materials or organization scope materials. So I'm trying to think. It's been about 35 minutes that we've been together, I think. Maybe we do one more. Let's see what's going to be the best use of our time. Maybe we do ping. Let's do some ping data. So ping, we have, it's typically a huge data table. Can be hard to query on, so you might have to run your ping behavior scoring and yet another query. You can run probably during the same delivery window, but it might just be a little intensive for to try to pull, especially if you're slicing it up in a bunch of different ways or with a large group of people. So we're just going to do ping, and we could do minutes, we can do unique URL visits, we could do URL unique visits across different pages, repeated visits on the same URL. There's so many different ways that you can really slice this up. If you know you have, oh yeah, let's just, instead of talking, I could talk and build at the same time, I suppose. So maybe we want to look at the number of minutes they spend on a specific page. So we're going to do a formula export, and maybe we're scoring it as well as doing some calculations on, or just math on, maybe you want minutes instead of seconds, whatever it could be. So we're just going to do ping. That's just nested inside another subquery. And we're going to aggregate. And this is where there again becomes that more nuance. If you want to count, maybe we're just going to sum. Sum is probably how you're going to typically do it. And maybe we want to do ping duration, which is going to be in seconds. You could do, duration in seconds. You could do visits. I think actually I already have some pre-built ones. That's fun. Yeah, they're just doing count distincts for URL. That's nice. You could also look specifically. Here, I'm just going to do ping duration. And we're just going to join to the ping data table. Let's just look at a specific website. So we can run a comparison. And again, this is an added layer of compute. If you're looking at a specific, maybe you just want to do www.slate.com. I don't know if Slate has .com. Let's just do slate.org. They have that. And we're going to use that as our label for our literal, but our actual value that we're going to be comparing against. And just do ping URL. So if that ping URL is slate.org, so how much time are they spending on that specific web page? So this could be really helpful if you have a list of like 5 pages that like this is the important pages, or these are, maybe it's the financial aid page, it's the academic majors page, it's whatever the important pages are that's going to be a good indicator on if they're going to be coming to your institution or not. Or you could also, even if it's not engagement scoring, but like if they're spending a lot of time, again, on financial aid or on maybe these warning flag sites that are like, okay, they've spent 45 minutes on the events page, but they haven't signed up for an event. Maybe they just need some kind of push, or maybe, hey, they don't know about virtual events, and you could send some kind of even automated email. Again, don't say like, hey, we saw you were on our visit page for 45 minutes or 15 times. Here is a virtual visit option, or here's some information about financial aid. But just if that just happens to be in the comm flow that they're getting from your institution, like, oh, this is great. I do need to know about this. Or like, oh, I did want an opportunity to engage with the campus in some way. I just didn't know that there were virtual events or some kind of web experience. Maybe you have like a day in the life portal or something along those lines where the student is still able to engage with what a campus visit could be, but virtually. And then you could also, again, do these kinds of things against application date, admission date, or maybe during those kind of yield windows of they've deposited, but before the commit deadline, or just generally before the commit deadline after admissions. There's a lot of nuance that you can really start grabbing in the time frame that we'll cover later with the chronologian. But we'll just do number of seconds that they visit on www.slate.org. And maybe you just want something a little bit simpler. Maybe we're just going to say case when we just want to know the number of minutes. Maybe if you just want to know 1 minute, or again, we're creating bands if they've been on for 5 minutes versus 3 minutes versus 1 minute. Maybe we're starting to be able to group those behaviors of students who who behave in a similar fashion as people who are spending similar amounts of time. So maybe that's greater than 5, then 20 points. And we can just make our life a little bit faster and easier. When it's more than 1 minute, 10 points, maybe just else. Maybe if we're seeing very limited, less than a minute, we're just seeing not as much behavior, and we can end it. Or maybe we're creating a bonus like, oh, they visited unique visits. Maybe we're establishing some kind of element there.